Well, welcome back to the channel. Tonight's terrifying story is up in the state of Michigan, and it's dealing with the cryptid best known in that area as the Dogman. Stick around, because we're going to give our 2 cents and commentary about this, and enjoy tonight's story. I don't know if confession is the right word for what I'm about to admit to. By the strictest definitions, I'm not sure what I did technically counts as murder. I mean, definitely, I shot somebody. I definitely hate that I did it. Please don't get that mixed up. What happened was awful. And if I could have fixed it any other way, I would have. You have to. Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. None of you even know what I'm talking about. Probably sounds crazy right about now. Crap. Does admitting this sounding crazy make you sound more crazy? Okay, come on. Back on topic. My name is Victoria, and for the past 12 years I've been going on long hiking trips with my father and my uncle in the upper parts of the United States. Well, I say hiking. My dad and my uncle always intended them to be hunting trips, but they honestly kind of sucked at it. Of the dozens of times we went up north, I'm pretty sure only 3 or 4 of them resulted in any actual kills, trophies. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to the terminology. Now, before you go on to judge my dad for bringing along a disinterested girl on hunting trips she clearly did want to go on, he did his best, okay? He's a mediocre hunter, but he's a good dad, I promise. If he wasn't, I wouldn't be alive to tell my story. He would have left me behind to save his own skin. Instead, I'm still here, trying to make sense of everything while he fights for his life. I should probably back up. I know I'm not really making much sense right now. Sorry. My mind is still a bit jumbled. To give it a bit of background, my dad and my uncle have a favorite hunting spot in northern Michigan that they would go out to once a year, usually leaving me at home with my mom. They changed when my mom passed away unexpectedly. Doctors say that it was a brain aneurysm, that it was just an awful stroke of bad luck, and that there was nothing she or any of us had done wrong. I know that they were just trying to make it easier on us, but that's not really much comfort to a 12-year-old girl and a grieving widower. The next couple of months were hard for the both of us, and more than once I had to stop myself from preparing her spot at the table. It's a weird feeling, that kind of grief. You keep telling yourself that it doesn't make sense, that they weren't supposed to die yet, and you begin looking back at every small detail, hoping that there was maybe just one clue you missed that might have made a difference. Eventually, you manage to forget what that sounds like. You can somehow remember every exact tone that they used to have. Their happy voice, their annoyed one, playful, joyful, all of it. It's a very weird, really draining contradiction. Dad really stepped up around this time. I mean, it's not like he wasn't present before or disinterested in me. He totally wasn't. But when Mom died, I don't know, I guess something clicked. He started asking about my hobbies, asking if I needed to talk or just to have someone to sit with me. Planned movie nights together. Lots of stuff. Looking back, I kind of wonder if that was his way of just pushing everything to the side, you know? Focusing on me so he didn't have to think about Mom. Even if it was, he really made me feel safe when everything else was just kind of falling apart. So yeah, he was a really good dad. That year's hunting trip was the first one I had ever went along with. Dad thought that it might be good to get me out of the house and somewhere I wouldn't see Mom's face every time I walked into a room. Uncle Stephen, God bless him, was so understanding. He wouldn't take any of my apologies for ruining his brotherly getaway, and kept insisting that my dad had to look out for his priority one, as he called it. The spot itself wasn't really anything out of the traveling brochure, but it was pretty. Long dirt roads, tall hills that would let you see miles and miles of canopy, the occasional river that always seemed to have a gentle mist in the mornings. It was just nice, pretty, and quiet. I honestly don't remember if Dad and Uncle Stephen ever did any hunting that year. I just remember tubing, s'mores, Dad pointing out rabbits and weird plants, and laughter. Lots and lots of laughter. I'm sure it's corny to say, but yeah. The place kinda became magical to me. So yeah, that's kinda how our yearly tradition got started. Or changed, I guess. Even in years later, when Dad and Uncle Stephen actually got back to hunting, they still made sure to make time for activities I'd enjoy. Honestly, I'm half convinced my dad only kept tubing to make sure I wasn't wearing bikinis downriver, but, of course, he denied that. Even after I moved out, I still made time to go on those trips. I even got a pistol of my own so I could join them at the range and out in the woods, which my father insisted had to be at least a 10mm. Before you ask, no, I never actually shot anything living. It was also kind of amusing to see Dad's disappointment that he couldn't stop me from wearing the oh-so-dreaded swimwear anymore. But those are just details. That brings me to our most recent trip. The one that got him to the hospital. Things started as normally as they could have. I requested time off for a getaway, packed the stuff I needed along with the 2 pairs of spare clothing, just in case, and made sure my pistol was locked away in the trunk, and drove up to meet my dad and my uncle. Once we met up at the local diner, maybe 20 minutes from home, we got our caravan going, and by noon we were up north. If that sounds boring, yeah, I get it. Totally normal shit. There wasn't some cold chill in the air, no news reports on missing persons. Nothing. Honestly, I've kinda learned that's the standard when it comes to tragedy. Anyways, getting everything set up was pretty easy, which is kind of a byproduct of doing something for more than a decade. Dad offered to help, of course. "You want me to set up your tent, sweetie?" he asked. Yeah, it didn't matter that I was 24 now, or that I had been setting up my own tent since I was about 16. He still offered, same as always. "You gonna change your bib too? Leave the woman alone, man," said Uncle Stephen. I don't think he ever passed up an opportunity to give my dad a hard time. Just a brother thing, I guess. Or maybe a sibling thing in general. I wouldn't know. The first night was never a hunting night, so after we got set up, the next thing we did was wander around for a bit. We We headed to a popular lookout to look over a big, pretty expanse of river and canopy, read the same facts about the river on the nearby plaque, and got a picture or two. Okay, maybe 6, thanks to me insisting on every combination of the 3 of us. Uncle Stephen was a bit annoyed by the end of it, which of course Dad thought was hilarious. And yeah, maybe I thought it was too. After that, we hiked, taking in the scent of pine needles and warm air, that gentle hint of condensation from the river, if that's the right word. And talking about dumb coworkers, my boyfriend, and when he'd be back from overseas, Uncle Stephen's promotion, Dad finally seen someone new from all these years later. We were happy. So happy. I guess you could say that the first indications that things were gonna go wrong was around twilight. It sounds so stupid now, but as Uncle Stephen was cooking up chili and hot dogs, I swore I could hear these faint, distant screams in the woods. Now, I know that sounds really bad, but they weren't these awful, painful screams, you know? It sounded like people having fun, laughing a bit, being drunk and just getting loose. You hear that kind of stuff all the time being up north, but you never think anything of it, right? Okay, focus. The woods started getting dark not long after. Like, really dark. Like, can't even see 10 feet in front of you dark. That's one of the things I never really got used to, honestly. The tightly packed trees, making it so even starlight didn't seem to make it through. We were in the middle of some talk about the best feeding spots or something, when we heard more voices coming from the woods. These ones were louder and closer than the ones before. Kind of in that weird in-between state where you don't have to actively listen to notice them, but faint enough that you couldn't actually hear what they were saying. Jeez, those kids are making one heck of a racket, Uncle Stephen muttered, taking a sip of his beer. Do you think that we should move camp? I asked, somewhat aware that too much human activity could make deer and other animals skittish. Dad just started shaking his head, the soft crack of his own beer can clashing against the crickets and crackling fire. Nah, they'll probably be gone by morning. All the big game is probably asleep by now anyways, he'd argue. It wasn't like right after when we heard it. There was maybe a minute or two of getting back to random stuff before this just awful scream rang through the trees. I assumed it was a few different screams at the time, because I could distinctly hear what I thought was a terrified man yelling like he was hurt, and this weird mix of a bear roar and a wolf howl. We all shot up in our chairs when we heard it, completely forgetting whatever it was that we were even talking about. There was this coldness I felt, staring out into the woods. Outside a small circle of light from the campfire, it was just a pure sheet of darkness. You couldn't even see the shapes of the individual pine trees. I don't think I was even breathing for a few seconds when the screaming stopped. I wasn't thinking about it or anything. I just don't remember inhaling for, I don't even know for how long. The whole woods went quiet after that. No distant talking, no crickets. Even the wind seemed to stop. The only thing I could hear was the sound of our firewood burning. There was still no chill in the air. But I did have this awful primal feeling that something had changed. Like we were all in danger. The second scream was even worse than the first one. Louder, closer. This one only lasted a few seconds, but it was enough to get me out of the chair entirely. The combined screaming and howling lasted long after it faded. Uncle Stephen slowly stood up and grabbed his rifle, a Winchester, if I remember correctly. Seeing him go for his gun suddenly made me very aware of my own gun, and I kinda fumbled around for a second before I felt my hand rub against the grip of my hip. Dad got his gun too, a Remington. "You heard that too?" my uncle asked. I think what really made me realize how bad this was how little humor there was in his voice. I mean, my uncle knew how to turn anything into a joke. How to make anything sound like it wasn't really a big deal. He didn't do that with this, though. His voice was cold, tense, and as much as he was trying to hide it, he was just a little scared. Dad sealed it up when he told me to get back to the cars. I tried asking, "Well, what about you?" "We're gonna go see if those other folks are okay. If we don't see anything, we're leaving." I hated that plan. I don't know what was out there, but my gut was telling me going into the woods was a stupid idea. I'll be honest, it felt so wrong to feel that way. This place has been a sanctuary for us for a dozen years, even had some of our best memories. Just one noise. That's all it took for all of that just to go away. Part of me wanted to argue. I was honestly so freaked out I didn't care about the tents or anything, but I wanted to tell them to come with me. The only reason I didn't was because I still thought there was another group out there. So yeah, I did what I was told. Grabbed one of those little tactical flashlights, flicked it on, and made my way down the trail as the thin beam of light lit the small path in front of me. Anyone screaming at me for how dumb it was that we split up, you'll at least be happy to know that my gun was in my other hand, safety off, but finger off the trigger. I'm sure that technically still violates gun safety, but I didn't want to risk fumbling the safety if something or someone was out there with us. Or just me at that point. The trek back felt like I was marching forever. Technically, I was a little less than a mile from where we had parked, but we had always made it a point never to hike at night. Too dangerous, you know? We didn't want to risk getting lost. So every step took twice as long. Then there was the fact I didn't want to make any noise, so I was just hyper-focused on avoiding twigs or leaves on the trail. Every so often, I'd sway the little beam of light into the tree line to make sure nothing was following me. I wouldn't see anything, but I swear I saw something reflecting the light, like something was following me. "You're not being followed," I'd tell myself. "Just keep going." But then I'd look back into those woods, see my flashlight just vanish into the dark nothingness of the trees, and I'd swear I could see it again. Say the soft crunch of the dirt trail and rocks. I couldn't hear a thing. And let me tell you, anyone that's been up north can tell you how wrong that is. No owls, no toads, nothing. Just this heavy, forced silence on the entire forest. I wanted to run so bad, but as suffocating as the woods were, I was convinced that would bring something down to me. So, step by step, trying to be as quiet as I could, I just kept my pace. Move. Look to the trees. Tried to ignore how badly my hands were shaking. And keep moving. I don't know how long I had been walking when I heard the first shot come from somewhere behind me. Normally, gunfire doesn't bother me. I mean, I've been around it for like 12 years now. But when the woods are that quiet, anything that sudden just feels deafening. I'll admit, I screamed and whipped around so fast I almost dropped my flashlight. In the few seconds it took me to flip myself around and raise my own weapon, I'm pretty sure I heard 3 more shots go off. I knew immediately that was trouble. It had to be. My dad and uncle were mediocre hunters, but they knew better than to fire that many shots so quickly, even if they missed. They wouldn't follow up that fast. Then I heard screaming again, wolf-like, no hint of bear anymore. What I did hear scared me way more than the bear, though. Something in all my life I had never heard, and honestly, I hope to never hear again. It was Dad, hollering in abject horror. "Dad?" I yelled. "Dad!" I know it's stupid, but thinking of him being attacked by something in the woods, I couldn't. I ran back. I don't care about making noise anymore. I don't care that this thing, whatever it was, sounded terrifying. All I could think about was my dad and Uncle Stephen being attacked. I know it's dumb. I know I probably shouldn't have ran back. But it was my dad. I couldn't lose him. I ran as fast as I could, not caring about the noise, how many times I stumbled, how badly my head was pounding. None of that mattered. I had to get back, and I had to find Dad and Uncle Stephen. I heard gunshots and roars. I don't know how many. "Come on, come on, come on!" I screamed to myself as the roaring got closer, the blood in my ears nearing as my dad kept screaming. My heart was beating out of my chest by the time I finally got back to camp. The fire completely burned out. I could hear my heart thumping, my head pounding as I breathed so hard I thought I was gonna pass out. "Dad? Dad, Uncle Stephen, where are you?" I begged. As if it were a direct answer, I heard one last ear-shattering shot. The tiniest fireball in the distance illuminating the pines for a brief moment. I didn't even wait, bursting through the trees, begging them to hold on for just a bit longer. "Vic, stop!" I heard a familiar voice plead through a strained voice. "Vic, if that's you, stop! Get out of here!" Dad. He was hurt. I could hear it in his voice that he was hurt. I couldn't stop. Not if he was hurt, right? Shining my flashlight forward, I raised my handgun and screamed, hoping to get attention of whatever was attacking him. "Hey!" I yelled. I won't say I wasn't terrified, but I needed my dad to live. He had to. "Vic, no!" But it was too late. My light illuminated Dad, knocked on his back with this horrible-looking claw mark on his chest, bleeding so badly that his entire shirt had gone red. Standing above him was... I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know what I expected to see, but this thing, it was huge. It must have been a head taller than my dad or my uncle. Maybe 2 heads. It was converted in a pitch black fur that seemed to blend in with the night around it. Some of its fur was clearly drenched, but I don't want to think about it. My hand shook as I aimed at the monster above my dad, its gaze shifting as it gave off this growl that made my entire chest tighten. I don't think I was even forming actual thoughts anymore. That's what I kept telling myself. How else could I even try to explain it? It had a massive dog's head, blood-covered fangs, but also these sparkling blue eyes that looked... I don't know how else to say it. Human? Maliciously, impossibly human. I swore as my vision began to blur. I could even see it smiling at me. I don't remember if it lunged at me, or if it went for my dad. Every time I play that night back in my head, I swear it did, but I don't know. Maybe I just needed some reason to shoot. Again and again and again. I kept firing, even as it raised a hand and retreated, covering its face as it roared and darted into the woods. And even after the deafening flashes and cracks of gunfire were replaced by low, heartbreaking clicks. I waited for the thing to come back, my ears ringing as I frantically searched the woods with my flashlight. But no matter how hard I looked, I just saw blackness and pine trees. Nothing else. No more animals, and to my horror, no Uncle Stephen. No, please. It's not fair, I thought. I know Dad would never leave my uncle behind. He wouldn't. So, the only possibility was... oh, God. I kept looking even as I rushed over to my dad, tears stinging my eyes as I looked at his injuries. Dad, are you okay? I wept, placing a hand on his chest. Dad, the wonderful man he was, he just shook his head, sucking in air with a pained wheeze as he shakily raised his hand and placed it over mine. I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. I won't go over the drive to the hospital. It's been maybe a day since Dad had gotten taken back. They say he's in bad shape, but there's a chance. The doctors are all being just wonderful to me, making sure I have food, getting me water, keeping me updated. They even took the liberty of calling his new girlfriend, and would you believe it? She actually called me just to see if I was okay. I don't have a gun anymore. Police took it when I got to the hospital. I guess the good news is that they're saying, based on what had happened to Dad, they don't think I'm some psycho killer. At their very least, they're not treating me like a suspect, so I guess I don't have to go to prison, which is nice. I'm honestly still not sure what I even saw up there. But I think Dad and I are done with the up north for a bit. Or at least, no more nighttime camping. Well, that is wrapping up tonight's terrifying story. Whew. What a wild one, right? Insane. My opinion, straight up Dogman. We're talking about Michigan here, people. Okay? Like, isn't that the birthplace of the Dogman? Like, as far as anything I've ever read, the oldest entry, anything I could find, was in Michigan. and it had a face like a dog with glowing eyes. Yes, glowing blue eyes, but I don't know. Are there different breeds of Dogman? I don't know. I always have read stories about Dogman with amber eyes or red eyes that glow. But I've also heard about the Michigan Dogman with blue eyes. So who knows, right? I'm not in Michigan. I'm not there. And I don't think I'm ever going to be there because that would scare the piss out of me. What do you guys think in the comments below? Do you think it's like a skinwalker that shapeshifts? Do you think it was a Dogman indeed, based off the key elements that you heard in the story tonight? And what happened to Stephen, her uncle? Like, there was no information about that, but I guess there wasn't any information about that. But she didn't really dive into, like, any police reports of finding his weapon or a shoe or a torn flannel, like, no blood trail. Like, there was no information about Stephen at all in this story, so I guess it's safe to say that the creature took him. But he must have had taken him before he attacked her dad, because when the main character was busting caps at this furball, it took off in the woods, but it wasn't holding Stephen with it. You know what I mean? So Stephen must have gotten taken prior to the attack on her dad. So yeah, there's some open areas that definitely need some filling in for this story. But then again, sometimes when you go through a situation like that, there is no way to get all the answers. Everything happens so quickly. You could only remember and grasp onto certain key elements because it's like slow motion. You know, it's like, it's hard to explain. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed the story tonight. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share me with your friends and spread me like butter. Hop on to the Spotify if you want to listen to me at night. Don't want to worry about the screen getting all burnt on the glass from having the light on the whole night while you're sleeping. That's happened to me with my phone. That's why I always mention it. I would listen to creepypasta and scary stories at night on my phone, right, from YouTube. And then I noticed there was like an imprint of like a YouTube video burnt on the glass, like a light yellow tint, and it never came out. So yeah. Spotify's the place for like the long nights. And if you want to support us more, hop on the Patreon. There's different tiers, and they only start at $1 a piece. A lot of exclusive videos on there. Once things financially start getting better on the channel, I want to do some giveaways to some of the higher tier payers on Patreon. So stick around, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.